You can look inside and be happy with what you find.
Do you hear that?
Yes, I did hear that. Yikes. Maybe we ought to include this in the video. This is how we get grounded before a video.
You can hear my bones from the inside of my skull. Hi, Christina.
Hi, Delphine.
Welcome to this talk. Today's topic is grounding. I have a couple of questions for you. If you're open to answer them.
More than open. I'm super excited.
Okay, cool. So, you walk through life barefooted. Barefoot. How do I say barefoot?
Barefoot.
Okay. And I remember when I first met you, which was in the middle of the winter in Holland. Needless to say, it was cold, it was freezing. And well, we did spend the week inside, but then, you know, when we left from there, which we did together, I saw you walking like through the ice and stuff, just barefoot. And I remember wondering like, wow, I knew that some people did that, just walking barefoot, but even in the ice. And I was kind of fascinated by that. I didn't realize like to what degree it was a way of living, or it is a way of living, instead of, okay, I'll just take my shoes off. What I'm wondering is, first of all, when did you start doing that, and why at the time?
Yeah. Interestingly, I started the year before we met. It was July. And again, I was at New Eden at a Heart IQ retreat. And I left the retreat with a friend that lives in Eindhoven in the Netherlands. And again, like you said, we're inside all week at the retreat, and it's a no shoes environment. So you don't really notice if people are, I mean, people do go out for walks and things, but mostly you're seeing everyone with shoes off. So when we left the retreat, I got in the car with my friend Ori, and he wasn't wearing shoes. He drove without shoes, and I didn't really think that much about it. And then when we got to his house that evening, we went to the grocery store to buy some food. And we were walking to the store, and we left his house, and he didn't have any shoes on. And I said, oh, you're not wearing any shoes. And he said, I haven't worn shoes in 10 years. And I was like, mind blown. And I said, really? Wow. And then all this old conditioning from the States came back to me. There's a saying in the US, no shirts, no shoes, no service. Like, you can't go into places without shoes. At least this is what I thought. And I said this to him, and he said, oh no, I've been all over the world. I've been to the States. I've been all kinds of places. And, you know, I've rarely been told that I can't come in or that I have to leave. And if it happens, well, I do. But in that moment, it was like really a momentary thing when my mind, you know, could grasp that. in the next, you know, few seconds, I thought, wow, I want to do that. This feeling came up like, really, seriously, I don't have to wear shoes. This is actually a choice. And yeah, wow, it sounded great. So we walked to the store shoeless, and basically, with few exceptions, I haven't worn shoes since then, since that day. And it's and I love it. It's yeah, I won't go into the details of it, but it's been I never looked back. So I'm really grateful to him for giving me this imprint and this idea that, wow, you can really, this is a choice. You can choose to walk barefoot through life if you desire.
So today it has been what, over 2 years that you
It'll be
were?
2 years, yeah, in a couple months.
Okay, almost 2 years. When you look at your motivations today for keeping on doing this, have things changed, or do you have more information, more ideas, more experiences maybe of what it brings you?
I cannot imagine going back to shoes now. It's like a prison for my feet. Yeah, it's delightful. It's something, you know, people ask, how do you do it? Like physically, how do you do it? And even initially, it wasn't that hard for me. I walk on all kinds of terrain, even sharp rocks. You know, there's certain things that I don't really love walking on, but it's just, you know, and I wouldn't say that my feet are these hard, you know, mangled rocks. It's, you know, they're still nice feet. But there's definitely some, you know, like a layer of protection there now. So for me, I do it because it's fun and it's nourishing for me, and I just love it. That's the bottom line. If I didn't want to do it, I wouldn't do it. But since then, I have learned more about the science behind earthing or grounding or going barefoot, in terms of like the Earth's surface being charged with electrons, and those, you know, basically, without going into the science of it, there's a lot of research that says it's actually fantastic for us, and that when with the advent of synthetic soles for shoes, this was really a negative thing for us as a collective, because we're no longer in touch with the earth. And for me, you know, it's one thing to go barefoot once in a while, or to get your hands in the dirt and garden. All these things are great, but it is actually another level for me. I don't want to wear shoes at all. And it's great because I don't have to buy socks or shoes. And it's just a non-issue. It helps simplify things. And I honestly have I guess simplicity is a big value of mine, and this fits right into that. So I think people are finding that it is more important to be in touch with the earth more. And I know walking barefoot isn't going to be for everyone, but it's something that, yeah, I keep going back to this thought of it really nourishes me on a deep level. I absolutely love it.
Thank you. I am wondering also, are there moments, or have there been moments where it was, or it is challenging emotionally to go without shoes?
Yeah, I actually get a little bit choked up when you ask me that, because it's been an eye-opening experience, to say the least. Because when I first started this, I was still traveling all over the world. I've been to the States, I've been to all over Europe, all over the Balkans. I've been to Turkey barefoot. And people are quite invested in it somehow. You get a lot of very strong reactions from people, both positive and negative. Some people are in awe and like, wow, that's so cool. How are you doing that? And some people are literally disgusted and are not afraid to give you a dirty look, or me. And a lot of people wanted to give me their shoes. They were really concerned for me. But interestingly, I would say the biggest thing emotionally that's happened is, since I've come to Portugal, before coming to Portugal, I'd never actually been kicked out of a place for being barefoot. And since I've come to Portugal, this place where I've decided to settle down, I've actually been kicked out of a lot of places. I have to be honest, most of them are bigger commercial places. And so for me, it's not that big of a deal to actually not be able to go there, because I do want to go to smaller, more local places. And generally speaking, it's a non-issue there. But what it has brought up in me, strangely, is this, it gets to like a core issue around belonging. And even though I can say, oh yeah, I don't care about going to the commercial places, whatever. When you get kicked out of a place simply because you're not wearing footwear, yeah, it for me, it's been a process of coming to terms with the place I've chosen to be in some ways is saying, no, we don't want you. And, you know, when you already have unworthiness issues or feeling like you're not wanted or you don't belong, like old childhood trauma that you've worked through. And I keep saying you, and what I mean is me, that I've worked through. It's quite interesting to have that pop up again around this, because it's like, who cares if I'm wearing shoes or not? But there's actually a lot of interesting social dynamics around shoes or no shoes and what it means. And I mean, I won't go into the historical aspects of it in Portugal, but there are some socio and historical aspects that make this a place where they are looking down on being descalça or barefoot here. So I take that into account also. There's some cultural things around why there's less tolerance for it. Yeah, thank you for asking that, because it is a big thing. It's been a big part of the barefoot journey for me, is this emotional aspect.
Yes, I can imagine, because for me, living in the south of France, it is something that I do feel present here, like people looking strangely if you walk barefoot, especially in the city, you know, like maybe at the countryside it's a little bit different. I don't know, it's a feeling I get. But I can imagine that in different cultures, people react in various ways.
Well, and I guess I'll just speak to it really quickly. It's like, you know, are they wondering, are you homeless? Are you, you know, a peasant? Are you, you know, like, why the hell would you do that if you could have shoes on? So I think there's a lot of confusion that comes up in people. And it's also something that people don't really see. I've never seen another person walking barefoot. Or I mean, I've never met another person who is going through life barefoot, except for Ori Lightning, the guy who turned me onto it. So I get that it's weird and it's different. I have a feeling it won't be that way for, you know, in the coming time. I think more and more people will be doing it, but we'll see.
What is the most pleasant surface you ever walked on?
The most pleasant surface that I've ever walked on. Probably moss. I love moss because it's still the earth. It's still it's soft. It's springy. Yeah, I love moss. There's some man-made things or some stone surfaces that I've walked on that are they're like, because I love marble, but it gets slippery when wet. But more rough stone surfaces that still give you traction, but are really really nice on the underfoot. But I would say moss is my favorite.
My last question, you might be able to guess it, but what is the worst surface or thing you ever stepped on?
Well, sharp rocks and gravel in general are not my favorite, but if I think of an experience I've had, a couple of years ago, I was with my friend Christian, and we were at the Fringe Festival in Edinburgh in Scotland.
Oh, I
And it
love
was,
that. I've been
which
there.
I highly recommend. It's an amazing immersion in arts and music and creativity. It's amazing. But I will say, walking on the streets there, they're quite worn down, and then there are these really sharp rocks coming up through the street. And whoo, after a week of walking all over that, my feet were thrashed. They needed a bit of a break. And it's funny because, you know, there's broken glass and shit everywhere. That was never a problem. But those pokey rocks in the street, after a while, I was like, ugh. Yeah.
So you mean you never stepped on broken glass ever, or dog shit, or whatever, you know, that kind of horrible stuff?
Never stepped in dog shit. I'm very aware. I think I've been cut once with glass. And the only other thing the worst thing that's happened is I was running for a train in Holland and stubbed my toe. And I thought it was no big deal. I didn't think I'd stubbed it that bad. But then I got on the train and I looked down and my foot is like in a pool of blood. And here it's like, oh my God, how embarrassing. Like people are like, really, seriously, you're bleeding all over the place. So I like dug in my backpack for just something that I could sop it up with. You know, it was super embarrassing. But it was just a stubbed toe where I had just like removed a little skin off of my toe. But it's quite amazing that, you know, everyone's like, oh my gosh, you know, because even like I go to the market here, everybody knows me at the market as, you know, the barefoot girl, or the woman that goes barefoot. And a lot of people ask me questions, and they're all very concerned. But I will say one of the things that walking barefoot has done for me that I absolutely love is I slow down. You've got to be present when you're walking barefoot. You can't just have your mind off in the past or the future and you're not even looking. You've got to be there and present. And I'm always looking like what's coming up in my path, because yes, otherwise you are going to step in dog shit or something worse. And so yeah, it's a real exercise in mindfulness. It's fantastic that way. And I want to slow down in life anyway. That's an intention I have anyway. So this just plays it's just a great element of that. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. It's a wonderful end note. And thank you for sharing your experience with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for inquiring, Delphine.
It's very inspiring.
Thanks. Yeah, and it's really funny. Just one last thing, like the family, when we go out, it's interesting. Walter's now going barefoot a lot with me, and even Leo likes to go. It's clear he likes to go barefoot. So when it's doable, we like to do it as a family too. And it's nothing that I would never push it on anyone, but I would definitely say if it's something that you feel good when you hear it, or it resonates with you, or it sparks something in you, give it a try. It's pretty joyful.
Yeah, then now I have to really add this as well. You have been inspiring me as well to do it whenever I do feel comfortable with it. And both my kids actually told me recently that they were inspired by you. And whenever we go on our walks, they usually take off their shoes for the second half of the walk. So gradually to build the soles and, you know, of skin, but they totally love it as well.
Yeah, that feels really good. Thanks, Delphine.
Okay, I think we're gonna close this talk.
Okay, always a pleasure.
Yes, I enjoyed it. Thank you very much for answering all these questions. And let's see each other next time.
Okay, sounds good.
Bye, Christina.
Até logo.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Oh, nice.
Thank you for asking me all those questions, because I wanted to talk about that, but I had a feeling that you'd be asking me. So I'm like, okay, I don't have to answer everything in one question. I don't have to go everywhere. Like you'll ask me and I'll be able to go there. And you asked me all the things that I would have said on my own.
Cool.
You can look inside and be happy with what you find.